The notification chimed on my phone with an unassuming beep, a sound I usually associated with a new email or a calendar reminder. It was 11:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was drowning in spreadsheets in my sterile home office, a place I'd spent far too much time in lately, all in the name of affording our dream. The notification was from the new security system I'd installed at the beach house, the one I'd just closed on last month, a surprise for my wife, Sarah, a monument to 5 years of marriage and a decade of my relentless grind. The thumbnail on the notification showed the front porch, bathed in the soft golden glow of the sconce lights. The title read, "Person detected at front door." My brow furrowed. I hadn't told anyone the address yet, not even our closest friends. I was planning a grand reveal for Sarah's birthday next weekend. I tapped it open, and the live feed flickered to life. My heart, which had been thumping a steady, caffeine-fueled rhythm, suddenly lurched. There was Sarah. Her blonde hair, unmistakable even in the grainy night vision, was pulled back in a loose bun. She was unlocking the front door with the spare key I'd given her for emergencies. But she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her, his hand resting on the small of her back. He was tall, lean, with dark, familiar hair. It was Leo, her ex, the one she swore was just a ghost from her past, a friend she occasionally checked in on out of pity. "He's a bit of a mess, Mark," she'd say, her voice laced with a sympathy I now saw as a mask. "I just want to make sure he's okay." My breath caught in my throat. The app had a feature that recorded short clips with audio when motion was detected. My thumb trembled as I navigated to the event log. The most recent clip was 30 seconds long. I pressed play. The video was clear. Sarah turned to him, her face illuminated. She was smiling, a genuine, unguarded smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. She reached up, tucking a stray strand of hair behind his ear. Then she leaned in close, her voice a conspiratorial whisper carried perfectly by the sensitive microphone I'd paid extra for. "He's gone for the week, a big work trip to Chicago. We have the place all to ourselves." "He's gone for the week." The words echoed in the silent office, each one a hammer blow against the fragile glass of my reality. I wasn't in Chicago. I was right here, 50 miles away, buried in the work that paid for the very stage on which my wife was orchestrating my betrayal. The trip had been postponed at the last minute, a detail I'd forgotten to mention in our brief, distracted call that morning, a call where she told me she was having a quiet girls' night in with her friend Jessica. They stepped inside and the door clicked shut, plunging the feed back into a static image of an empty porch. But the scene was burned into my mind, the casual intimacy of his touch, the radiant joy on her face, the chilling confidence in her lie. I felt a cold wave of nausea wash over me. The beach house. Our house. I'd poured every last cent of my savings, a sizable inheritance from my grandmother, and a terrifyingly large mortgage into that property. It was a classic Cape Cod, white shingles, blue shutters, with a sprawling deck that overlooked the Atlantic. I'd pictured Sarah and me growing old there, our future children building sandcastles on the shore. I saw it as the culmination of my love for her, a physical manifestation of my devotion. To her, it was apparently just a conveniently empty love nest. My mind raced, replaying every recent interaction, her late nights at the gym, her secretive texts that she'd quickly angle away if I walked into the room, her waning affection, which I'd foolishly attributed to stress. I was a cliché, the hard-working, oblivious husband, so focused on providing a perfect future that he failed to see the present crumbling around him. Anger, white-hot and volcanic, surged through me, eclipsing the pain. I wasn't going to call. I wasn't going to text. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of a distant, disembodied confrontation. They were in my house, the house my sweat and sacrifice had built. I was going to go there. I was going to see it with my own eyes. I grabbed my keys, my movements stiff and robotic. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely fit the key in the ignition of my car. As I pulled out of the driveway, I did the only thing I could think to do. I called my sister, Emily. She picked up on the second ring, her voice groggy. "Mark, it's almost midnight. Everything okay?" "She's cheating on me, Em?" I choked out, the words tasting like ash. I quickly recounted the security feed, the whisper, the ex-boyfriend. Silence hung on the line for a moment. Then Emily's voice returned, stripped of all sleepiness, replaced by cold fury. That ungrateful! Where are you?" "I'm driving there, to the beach house." "Mark, wait! Don't go in there alone. Don't do something you'll regret. What are you thinking?" "I don't know what I'm thinking."
I yelled, slamming my fist against the steering wheel. I'm thinking my entire marriage is a lie. I'm thinking she's in bed with another man in the house I bought for us, for our family. Okay, breathe, she said, her voice a calming anchor in my storm. I'm coming. Text me the address. I'm 30 minutes closer than you are. Wait for me in the driveway. Do not go in without me. Promise me, Mark. I promised, though every fiber of my being screamed to barge in, to catch them, to unleash the hurricane of betrayal that was raging inside me. The 50-mile drive felt like a journey across a desolate continent. The cheerful pop songs on the radio felt like a personal mockery. I turned it off, embracing the silence, letting the images from the security feed play on a loop in my head. Sarah's smile, Leo's hand on her back, our house, their playground.
By the time I pulled onto the crushed shell driveway of the beach house, my anger had cooled into a hard, dense stone of resolve in my chest. Emily's car was already there, parked discreetly down the road. She got out as I did, her face a mask of worried determination. She wrapped me in a fierce hug. "Are you ready for this?" she asked softly. I nodded, unable to speak. "Let's go." Lights glowed from the living room windows. The sound of soft music, a mellow jazz station, drifted through the salty night air. It was all so domestic, so peaceful. It made the betrayal feel even more grotesque. We crept up the porch steps, my heart hammering against my ribs. I pulled out my key. This was it, the point of no return. I twisted the key, pushed the door open, and burst inside, Emily right behind me. "Sarah!" I roared, the sound tearing from my throat. The scene that greeted me stopped me dead in my tracks. It was nothing like the sordid tableau I had imagined. The living room was softly lit. Sarah and Leo stood near the large stone fireplace, but they weren't embracing. They were standing apart, looking anxious, their gazes fixed on a large, high-backed armchair that faced away from the door. As I stormed in, they both flinched, their faces a mixture of shock and, bizarrely, pity. "Mark!" Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "What are you doing here? Your trip." "My trip?" I laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "Cancelled. Lucky me. I got to see the live premiere of my wife bringing her ex-boyfriend to our new house, the house I bought for you." My voice cracked on the last word. Leo took a step forward. "Man, it's not what you think." "Don't you dare talk to me," I snarled, pointing a shaking finger at him. "Get out of my house, both of you. Get out." "Mark, please, just listen," Sarah pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "You don't understand." It was then that a weak, raspy voice came from the armchair. "Let him speak, Sarah. The boy has a right to his anger." The chair slowly swiveled around, and my world, which had already been shattered, was pulverized into dust. Sitting in the chair, a plaid blanket draped over his thin legs, was a man I hadn't seen in 20 years, a man I had tried to erase from my memory. He was older, gaunter, his face a roadmap of pain and regret. It was my father. I stared, speechless. My father had walked out on my mother and me when I was 10. No explanation, no goodbye, just an empty space at the dinner table and a silence that consumed our lives. I hadn't heard a word from him since. I had assumed he was dead. I had hoped he was. What is he doing here?" I stammered, my rage dissolving into a dizzying vortex of confusion and old buried pain. Sarah finally broke down, sobbing. "He's sick, Mark. He's dying. Pancreatic cancer. He has weeks, maybe a month." I looked from her to my father, to Leo, and back again. Nothing made sense. "What does that have to do with him?" I gestured wildly at Leo.
It was my father who answered, his voice a fragile whisper. "Leo is my son, Mark. Your brother. Your half-brother." The floor seemed to drop out from under me. I stumbled back, Emily catching my arm to steady me. Brother. This man, this ghost from Sarah's past, the man I'd believed was my wife's lover, was my brother. The pieces of the puzzle clicked into place with horrifying clarity. "He contacted me a few months ago," Sarah explained, her voice thick with tears. "Your father. He found me on social media. He told me everything, that he was sick, that he had another son, and that his final wish was to see you, to explain, to apologize, and he wanted you to meet Leo." So you lied to me, I whispered, the betrayal taking on a new, more complex shape. For months? You conspired with them behind my back? I didn't know how to tell you, she cried. I know how much you hate him. I was so scared you'd refuse, that you'd shut the door and lose this chance forever. I thought if I could just get you all in a peaceful place, a new place with no bad memories, that maybe you could find it in your heart to listen. Leo and I, we've just been planning this. How to bring him here, how to tell you. The whisper you heard? I was telling Leo you were gone for the week, so we'd have time to get your father settled before breaking the news to you when you got back. It was never what you thought, Mark, I swear. I looked at the three of them, my cheating wife, her lover, and the villain of my childhood. Except they weren't. They were my wife, my brother, and my dying father. Sarah's deception wasn't one of infidelity, but a misguided, horribly executed plan born from a desperate love for me, an attempt to heal a wound I'd long insisted was fatal. I spent the rest of that night in a daze. Emily, a silent, steady presence, made coffee while I sat and listened. My father told his story, a pathetic tale of cowardice, regret, and a second family he'd started, only to fail them as he had failed us. Leo, quiet and reserved, filled in the gaps. He'd only learned about me a year ago. He wasn't a mess my wife pitied. He was a decent man, a carpenter, who had been roped into this family drama. There were no easy resolutions. I didn't forgive my father, not really. 20 years of abandonment can't be erased in a single night. But I listened. I saw the terrified, dying man behind the monster of my memories. I looked at Leo and saw not a rival, but a stranger who shared my blood, another victim of the same man's failings. And Sarah. I looked at my wife and felt a pain that was deeper and more complex than simple jealousy. She had lied to me, manipulated me, and broken my trust in the most profound way. But she had done it to give me a gift I never would have accepted, the gift of closure, the gift of a brother. My father passed away 3 weeks later, in a hospice near the beach house. Leo and I were both there.
In the weeks that followed, my brother and I started the awkward, clumsy process of getting to know each other, two halves of a whole we never knew existed. My marriage to Sarah is not the same. The lie she told stands between us like a sheer wall of glass. I can see her, I can hear her, but the connection is fractured. We are in therapy, trying to rebuild. Some days I look at her and see only the woman who deceived me, but on other days I see the woman who loved me so much she was willing to risk everything, even our marriage, to heal a part of me I thought was long dead. The beach house, once a symbol of her betrayal, has now become something else entirely, a place of painful endings and uncertain beginnings, its foundation built not on sand, but on the most devastating secret of my life.